Welcome to the ExecMBA Podcast. I'm Brett Twitty, Director of Admissions for the Executive Formats of the Darden MBA. And on this episode of the podcast, I'd like to return to a topic we previously explored in earlier episodes, specifically career support in the executive formats. So if you've listened to those episodes, you know that we have two career advisors who support our executive formats students. Those earlier episodes were with Sarita Soldz. I talked with Sarita about how she and her colleagues support students who want to change jobs, change industries, so-called switchers, but also how we support entrepreneurs, so students with business ideas who are potentially considering launching their own ventures. Today, I talk with the other career advisor who works with our executive format students, Jim Collins. In this conversation with Jim, we explore a little bit more about how he and Sarita think about supporting students who want to move up within their existing organization, so-called climbers. So, without further ado, this is my conversation with Jim Collins. Jim, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Brett. Very good to be here.
So for our listeners at home, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I have a very broad background in organizational, executive management, professional development. Probably spent about 15, 16 years of my career in senior executive positions with trade associations and corporations running training and development functions, education training, and I don't know, 7-8 years with consulting firms, mostly in the organizational development, talent management, human resource development space, doing executive coaching, management training, organizational assessments, development competency models, and so forth. But the last 6 or 7 years of my life, I've chosen to devote that to assisting people who are facing transitions with theirs and in their careers, and I had the great opportunity to come down to Darden. Been here about 2.5 years now, and thoroughly enjoying it.
What attracted you to working with executive format students in particular? Well,
there's just a whole lot of things that I find extraordinarily appealing. I mean, first and foremost, we have to talk about Darden in general. Darden is just a very prestigious business school, got a wonderful history, wonderful reputation, and the students that come here are unusually bright, very motivated, highly talented, and that in and of itself is quite appealing. But in addition to that, if you think about the executive format students, they present such a great diversity. There's no end to the number of stories and career journeys that each and every one of them are on. They range in age from, say, their mid to late 20s up into their late 50s, early 60s. There are different stages of life. There are different stages of career. And each and every one of them has their own very unique career quest that they're on. So it presents a never-ending series of opportunities and, I think, challenges for me to work with each and every one of them to help them achieve whatever their career objectives might be.
And we've had Sarita Soldz, your colleague, on the podcast as well, and talked with her a little bit about the work that she does. Obviously, the two of you work together. How do you think about the executive format team, you and Sarita? How do you think about the work that you do, and how do y'all share responsibility or think about supporting students?
Oh, well, Sarita's great, first of all. Really enjoy having her on board. In many ways, we are fairly interchangeable. We cover the very same topics with each student. Sarita happens to be based in Rosslyn. I happen to be based in Charlottesville. But the way I think of it is we are two dedicated career resources for the entire any given entire class of executive MBA students. So Sarita and I really work very closely hand in hand to develop both a robust education curriculum, which the students will get introduced to when they arrive here, and I think they can see that on the admitted student website as well. And then a lot of education advising that we do, one-on-one and small group meetings to handle whatever or address whatever career topics that a student might present. It might range from things such as, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, helping them identify their gifts, their talents, their strengths, develop professional brand for that, put together the resumes or promotional vehicles like LinkedIn profiles they're going to need to take themselves to market, think through the go-to-market strategy and plans that they have for themselves. Perhaps work on interview skills and negotiate job offers. And that's for the switchers. For the climbers, there's another set of tasks that they have in front of them in terms of identifying where the organization may be headed, how they can align their talents and gifts and interests with the direction of the organization, and position themselves effectively for advancement and leverage their Darden MBA to do so.
So, Jim, when you think about working with climbers, first of all, let's sort of, for our listeners at home who may be less familiar with these categories, switchers, climbers, entrepreneurs, what are climbers? How do you think of these folks?
Well, climbers are those individuals that come to Darden to get an MBA with the express purpose, or the primary purpose, of advancing within the organization, to increase their level of responsibility, broaden the types of contributions they're making to the organization, and hopefully get paid more.
So how do you think about working with these students? What's sort of your general advice for students who want to climb within their organization?
Well, it all starts, of course, with getting to know the student very well, understanding what their career objectives are, and understanding as best we can the organization in which they work and the political landscape, if you will, in which they're operating. But once we have clarity about that, it's a matter of really sitting down and creating a project plan that will unfold, in most cases, during your 20 months here at Darden. The major piece of that, I guess, first and foremost, starts off with developing an internal network within your organization of advisors, mentors, and advocates, individuals in not just in your own department, but if you are looking to transition to yet another department. I'm thinking of an individual who I worked with who is the most dramatic internal climber, came up the ranks within operations, wanted to transition to finance. So he developed relationships not only with his boss and his mentors in operations, but also with the CFO and a couple of financial executives. So just an illustration. But once you've established those networks, and it's something you're constantly working at, it's a matter of sitting down with the relevant people within that network to have a number of conversations with them. Conversations, first of all, with where's you see the organization headed? Where's the growth directions for the company? Because if you're going to want to climb within the organization, more than likely you want to make that climbing or that advancement aligned with wherever the organization seems to be going. You don't want to hitch your wagon to a dying star. Let's just put it that way. But with a clear sense of where the organization may be headed, and thinking through how do my gifts, my talents, my strengths, my interests, how do they align with that? What are the potential roles that I might be playing within the organization, within those target functional areas, if you will, or departments, to complement or support the growth and make contributions to the growth of the company? So, in essence, you're trying to create your own version of a succession plan for yourself. In addition, I think you want to be having conversations with your boss and mentor about how you can leverage your Darden MBA to make contributions back to the organization. So it's a real feel-good message. It's not ask not what the corporation can do for me, but ask what I and my Darden MBA can do for the organization. And that helps position you as a broader contributor. At some point in time, of course, the conversation also has to shift to the fact that you are getting your MBA and you would like to make a contribution, make broader contributions to the organization and position yourselves for advancement within the organization. And begin to map out clearly with your supervisor, but maybe with some of your mentors in other parts of the organization, how might that best take place? Now, there's never any guarantees with an organization. You never know what the future holds, but certainly you want to be positioning yourself to be a serious contender, for opportunities for advancement here, so that when an opportunity does emerge, you are considered as a viable candidate for it. You're not just getting a courtesy interview. So it's having those kind of conversations. In addition, we encourage people, once they've clarified their objectives and the direction in which they want to head, to utilize the faculty resources here. They're very robust, and they can serve as advisors for you as well as Sarita and I. In addition, I think you are in the second year of the program, you have to pick electives, and you also have an independent study that you're responsible for. So our advice to climbers and as they approach the second year is to begin having conversations with your boss, your mentors, and what have you about the electives that you might want to take that would best position you for the direction in which you want to head. So the one climber that I mentioned that wanted to go from operations into finance was having conversations with his CFO about the kinds of courses he should be taking, electives and so forth. But in addition, with that independent study, you might want to leverage that to make a strategic contribution in some meaningful way to the target destination that you have within the organization. So to use that example once again of the operations guy that wanted to transition into finance, he put together a project that was that dealt with some of the pain points, if you will, for the financial organization. And in the act of doing that, actually created a job for himself shortly after graduation. So I think those are the major points. The final one that occurs to me is that many companies have a succession plan. And I think it's fair to sit down with your boss and maybe some mentors that you have in the organization and have conversations about how you and your professional development, are aligned with whatever, that succession plan is.
So one of the things that's interesting to me is that you and Sarita begin having conversations with students about their career goals before students even matriculate, right? So these career kickoff meetings that we typically have, you will typically have in the summer prior to the start of school. What's the goal with those conversations?
I think, as I mentioned, each person has a very unique and individual objective for coming to Darden in terms of the impact they want it to have on their career. So for us, our best work is done with people that we are able to develop a very close personal relationship with and assist as they go through their 20 months here at Darden and try to engineer whatever transformation in their career they'd like to have happen. So it all starts for me with the career kickoff meeting. And in that meeting, we spend an hour or perhaps more really getting to know the individual. What is their background, their experience, get a very clear idea, if you will, about what their personal career objectives are, why they're coming to Darden to get an MBA, what kind of impact they hope that's going to have on their career. And then towards the end of that career kickoff meeting, we spend time developing an initial action plan, if you will. What needs to take place during the 20 months that one is here at Darden in order to help that individual achieve whatever career goal they have in mind. Now, of course, as you know, plans always change. So as soon as you create a plan, there's usually several phases to it. The person starts off with phase one. They learn some things. They have an epiphany over here. Things change in their lives or what have you. And there's a constant need to be touching base and reforming, reshaping those plans to continue to kick the can down the road, as I like to say, in order to help them ultimately achieve their destination for whatever that transition point is they have in mind. Usually it's after graduation.
So the question that we get from prospective students a lot is, we have students now that are in Charlottesville and we have students that are in Roslyn. You had mentioned that Sarita is in Roslyn and you're based here in Charlottesville, but you support all students. So what does that look like? I've certainly been around during the weekend residencies, but I think it would be helpful for our prospective students to hear a little bit about how you support students in both locations.
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, even though there are two physical locations that people are designated as their primary point of reference, in point of fact, there's constant mixing. So during the global residencies, as you know, half the class is, drawn from Roslyn, half the class from Charlottesville, and they're overseas with each other, wherever they happen to be going, India, China, Europe, South America, South Africa, what have you. The class that stays behind, for 10 of those residencies at least, they are all transiting up to Roslyn to attend classes up there. And once again, there's an intermixing of the different sections. And of course, during the Leadership 1 and Leadership 2 residencies at the beginning and end of the program, they're once again, coming together as a group, and here in Charlottesville. So the actual geographic locations are not as stark and significant as one might be led to believe when they're first enrolling in the program. So having said that, during every residency, there's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday format here in Charlottesville. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday format in Rosslyn when the non-global residencies are taking place. Sarita comes down for Thursday and Friday, and the two of us are working with the students here on grounds. And then we travel up to Rosslyn for Saturday, Sunday, and meet with the students up there in person. But between the residencies, of course, people can meet with us virtually at any time of the week, including evenings and weekends, because we recognize that they're busy and they have packed schedules, and so we like to make ourselves as available as possible. So in terms of access to us, I think it's basically very uniform, between the two of us, and folks, frequently use both of us for different things.
What to you is the sort of best moment in your job? Right. So you've obviously been here for 2.5 years. You've had some student success stories along the way. When you think about sort of what makes you feel the best as a career advisor working with the executive format students, what is that feeling? What's that thing?
Well, one of the best moments, obviously, is when individuals are able to make a successful transition to wherever it is they're going. They land a new job, or they get a promotion with their organization. They're able to start a business, or make a successful transition, say from the military into the private or public sector. Those, of course, are the major big moments. But there's lots of little big moments, if you will, along the way when people are making significant steps along the road within their journey. It could be, the individual that comes to me initially and says, I want to transition from the military to the private sector, but, I really do not know how my skills translate. I don't know what kind of job I might be able to really get, or what kind of industry I might want to work within. And, the moments when they have an epiphany, if you will, or a realization that, I really understand that, I'm really am maybe a general management inclination, and I can see this applying within either logistical functions or operations functions within the manufacturing sector or the financial services sector, what have you. When those realizations happen, of course, it's very exciting because it enables them then to create the hub, if you will, around which their transition begins to revolve and focus. So those are 6 good days for career advisors.
Yeah, and obviously you and Sarita are there with the students every step of the way. We always stress with prospective students that you help with everything from the sort of initial formulation of the job transition plan, right, the action plan as you described, to even negotiation of salary, benefits, all those kinds of things. So soup to nuts.
Pretty much, and if you are if you're an entrepreneur, we have interest in starting your own business or expanding the current business you're in. There's a very robust set of resources here at Darden that we refer you to, and so we may start off as the point person that you connect with initially. Once we get clarity about what your career objectives are, we try to leverage the resources within the Darden community as well as the very robust resources within the alumni database to refer you appropriately and connect you to individuals who are going to really assist you with your journey. So the way I think about Sarita and me, you talked about, to cast ourselves back to an earlier question, how we work together. If you think about a medical model, we might be seen as your primary care physicians. We're the first person you go to really do whatever assessments and help you identify your directions and your objectives and so forth. And then we call upon and refer you to a very broad spectrum of resources, both within the Darden community, as I mentioned, as well as within the alumni database, the chapters and the faculty, and so forth throughout the school. So that's really, I think, the best model for how we work with people and how they work with us. And then there are some individuals where, particularly the switchers, where we work with them very closely throughout the entire process during their time here at Darden, from conceptualizing their brand to negotiating a job offer, as you just outlined.
One of the things that's exciting about entrepreneurship is that it feels to me, at least, and this is a little bit of an outsider's perspective, but as someone who's around the program a lot, there's a lot of momentum, at least within the student body, particularly class of 2018, 2019. There's now an exec student organization that's focused on entrepreneurship. There have been these sort of organic developments around sort of the sounding board and pitch nights that they've done in both Charlottesville and Roslyn. It's exciting to see that come together. And as you note, I think for a lot of students coming to an MBA program, particularly who are a little bit further along in their careers, there is always this thought in the back of your mind about starting your own business, eventually striking out on your own.
I think if I were to hazard a guess, I would say probably 50% of the students that come here on some level are toying with the idea. Some far more serious than others. Some have a very clear concept of the business they want to create, or they've already established a business and simply want to take it new directions or maybe expand its footprint. But on some level, some people are there at least to explore that possibility, and it may or may not be for them, but if so, they can at least check the box and say, I've looked into this and I've made some active decisions about it.
So, Jim, as one last question, if you were to if you really could only stress one thing about the work that you and Jim and Sarita do, or how a student would be supported with their career needs here at Darden, what's the one thing that you would really, really emphasize for a prospective student out there thinking about Darden and thinking about potentially a career switch?
Well, the one thing I think I would have them keep in mind is we certainly recognize, Sarita and I do, the fact of the matter is that the executive MBAs are busy people. They all have jobs. They all have this program which takes 15, 20 hours a week. In addition, many have families or relationships with significant others or personal lives of some sort or other. Their primary objective for coming here is frequently to make some sort of material transition in their career. That's why they're getting the MBA, and the challenge that they face is find the time to really do that while they're going through the 20 months here. So I guess if I had one piece of advice, I would simply say, we understand and recognize the challenges that the students face with that. To the extent it's at all possible, try to be as proactive as you can. But we also serve as accountability partners, so to reach out to us and it's and get us involved. Don't wait until the last 4 months of your program here to start working on your transition if you are looking to do something significant, change your function, change your industry, and so forth. That's my one major piece of advice, perhaps.
Yeah, time is I think the thing that's stressed the most in a program like this. And we talk with prospective students, if you want to do a job transition, it's like adding another class. It's variable in terms of the amount of time per week, depending on what phase in the process and how labor intensive, how much networking or cover letter, resume, all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
But it's functionally like having another class. And students who are most successful, you likely see this. At least my anecdotal impression is that students who are most successful are those that take real ownership over the process and are very self-directed. They use you and Sarita to help keep them on a path or help sort of move things along, but they very much own the process of their job.
Yes, yeah, they're proactive about it, and they engage with this as frequently as needed, and proactive about that as well.
Well, Jim, thanks for being on the podcast. It's good talking with you.
Oh, delighted to do so. Thanks very much for having me, Brett.
Jim Collins, one of the 2 career advisors who work exclusively with our executive format students. Of course, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the ExecMBA podcast, we're always open to your ideas. We can be reached at exec, that's EXEC, MBA at darden.virginia.edu. And until next time, thanks for listening.